Hey, hello everybody out there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be watching this, whatever your time zone is. Welcome to SeaRUG for November, a rare November SeaRUG, but with AU changing to earlier this year, we got an opportunity to do that this month. So anyway, again, welcome to SeaRUG. My name is David DeYars. I'll be your host and just your presenter here for the next couple of minutes, and then I'll turn it over to our sponsor. A couple of quick slides from me. Before I get out of the way, just a quick look at today's agenda. We've got Topcon Solutions, who've been a fantastic partner of SeaRUG for many, many years, back again. And we're going to take a look at Revit and Autodesk Point Layout workflows. It's something we haven't looked at in a while and something that's pretty useful. So I'm kind of excited about seeing this one. I know that the technology evolves and things get better, so it'll be interesting to see what's new and how the process has gotten better, and curious about this workflow because it's very, very useful. Just a quick shout out to our sponsors for the year, Microsoft Resources and Topcon Solutions Store. As I said, great partners of SeaRUG over the years. So big shout out and thank you to both these sponsors. As always, just my gratitude from the bottom of my heart, and everybody else at SeaRUG. Thank you. And speaking of everybody else at SeaRUG, big shout out to the rest of the board. As you know, I appreciate you guys helping me put together these presentations and curate the content and all that stuff. Looking forward to another year next year, which kind of brings me to, this is the last meeting of 2022. So if you didn't realize that, we'll be reconvening again in 23. So stay tuned for those announcements through Meetup and all that stuff. And lastly, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. We'll post this meeting up there in the next couple of days whenever we've got the recording all settled and edited and all that stuff. We'll put it up there. We've got presentations from many years going back, and some of the content, gets superseded a little bit by newer versions and things like that, but there's a lot of really good content still on there that's very relevant. So check it out, and it's a really great way to share it with anybody that you think would benefit that can't attend today. So anyway, hit the bell icon, subscribe, all that good stuff. This customary with YouTube. And lastly from me, and then I'll shut up and turn it over. Again, a huge thank you to Topcon Solutions stores. And like I said, we've been together for many, many years. And, our presenters today have been with us and always provide great presentations. So really appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to, I'll probably say goodbye at the end of the show here, but in case that you have to check out and don't see it, or if I drop off for whatever reason, just happy holidays. Hope it's been a great 22, and we'll see you in 23. So that is it from me. I'm going to turn it over to Jay Ayala of Topcon Solutions Store, and I'll let you guys get on to the real interesting part of the webinar today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. David, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I want to make sure that I'm sharing the appropriate screen. Give me 1 second and we will kick that off right now.
I think you might. Okay. It's good to me.
All right, good. Can you see my presentation, David?
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent, okay. Yeah, so if you aren't already familiar with Topcon Solutions Store, for those of you who are, this will be a little bit of a review. For those of you who aren't, we are so the company that I work for, Topcon Solutions Store, is a smaller division of a much larger Topcon company based out of Japan. And what they do is they do optical devices. If you've ever gone to the eye doctor to get your eyes checked, you're probably looking through the Topcon optical device to help you figure out what prescription you need. Also, we do machine control grading, things like that excavator that you see out there. There's robotic total stations that are guiding the GPS, this very precise GPS coordinates. Also, you're seeing on the far left there a robotic total station, which my partner in crime, Chris Wilson, you'll meet here in a little bit later. It's a robotic total station. How do you lay these points out? We've got this amazing technology with Revit to do our designs. How do we leverage those designs and get them to the field? That's what today's all about. So without further ado, I just want to let you know that not only are we an Autodesk authorized reseller, but we also have the hardware to back up the construction side of the business, and how those two things tie together puts us in a very unique position, and we want to make sure that you guys were informed about that. Okay, let's take a look at what your presenters and what we are. So last year we have, and it is my pleasure and my privilege to let you know that we won the Autodesk Construction Services Partner of the Year Award. Us, Topcon Solutions Store. I can't take much credit for it. It was mainly some of my colleagues, but they did an amazing job helping Autodesk and the Autodesk clients like yourselves to figure out how they were going to move into the Autodesk into the construction space, specifically around the Autodesk software. So I am your presenter. My name is Jay Ayala. I am joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Chris Wilson. I'm located in Richland, Washington, and Chris is in Kent, Washington. Yeah, so hey, Richland, Washington, don't hold it against me, guys. I'm not in Seattle, but I'm on the eastern side of the state. Good. Okay, so we had a little time to kind of practice this session between myself and Chris and kind of really refine how we wanted to present this. So what you saw earlier with the agenda that we had posted with David, it's been refined a little bit. So here's what you're going to see. Although we can set this up in state plane coordinates, maybe what's better to do this for layout is setting up control points. Then you're going to see how we automate the point creation within Revit. Then we're going to move on to exporting those points to the field. We're going to show you a little bit about Magnet Enterprise. That's a Topcon Solutions software that helps the Robotic Total Station communicate back and forth between the field and the robot itself. We're also going to show you how we bring those points that Mr. Chris Wilson is going to lay out for us at the Kent location. How do we bring those points back into Revit? And then finally, importing field points, laying out the points out in the field and then bringing those points back into Revit. So you're going to see all of that. This is not pre-baked. You're going to see it from start to finish. And at the end of the session, we may even have a little bit of time to discuss the Autobahn Society's building itself, the actual file that we're talking about. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the presentation, the meat and potatoes here. Step one, really, it's about setting up your control points, okay? So this process typically happens once you've already laid out your file in Revit. Let's take a look at the Revit file here. Here you can see we've got a dimensional drawing showing our building itself. And just to give you a little bit of context, if you've ever seen any presentations that I've provided, you may have seen me use this before. This is called the Autobahn data set that I typically use for demonstration purposes. This is a real world building. It's the Garage Insurance Center, the Autobahn building outside of Columbus, Ohio. And if, like I said, if we have time at the end, I'll show you some of the building itself and compare it to the models. There's some pretty cool photographs that we can get out of this real world building. How do we lay this out in the building? So let's say we've got this floor plan. We want to start laying things out. Katrina, if you're still on with us, would you mind checking out the, it looks like we've got the participation chat going on in the background. If it needs my attention, please let me know. Let's take a look at the floor plan here. If we were to lay out, let's say the tracks. The tracks are typically metal stud construction. You would lay out the track on the bottom of where the wall is going to be laid, and then you would lay out the studs that raise vertically within that particular building. So the tracks is typically something we want to find. So I've made a couple of additional views here. I've called, and you're going to see those over here in my left panel here. I've got one for points that are working and one for exporting. So I'm going to go into my points working file, and I'm going to start with something that Mr. Chris Wilson over there, give us a big wave, Mr. Chris Wilson there. So we have a couple of points where Chris knows that he can go find those. And those are important points. Those are called control points. He can find those in the field, and he can easily go and set up a robot and start to make those points. And those points happen to be the grid line intersection, 16 and 16 and a half. They happen to be 8.5 feet apart, along with grid line D. D as in dog, okay? So those two control points are right here, and I'm going to circle them, those intersections of where these grids intersect, okay? So how does this work? With Revit, whether you're using Revit 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, doesn't matter. We've got Autodesk Point Layout. And if you launch it for the first time, you're going to have to check out the license. So under Autodesk Point Layout, you'll simply get the license and it'll initiate the full ribbon. And typically we start from left and move on to the right, all the way over to export, okay? So if I'm trying to get points out to Chris, this is how we'll do it. I'm going to start by marking these two points, which is 16, 16 and a half, where it intersects with D, column line D. How do we do that? Let's go to Point Layout, and here we have control points. And I'm going to start by typing in a prefix, control point, CTRL. And I'm going to start with my point number. Now, Chris and I are used to going back and forth with this. So anytime I'm on the first floor of a building, I start with a number 10,000. That's the point number itself. If I'm on the second floor, I start with point number 20,000. Third floor, 30,000, so on and so forth. So he knows that if he's seeing a point, 10,000, that's the first floor of the building. Okay, so a couple of things to note: the point description and the point role is a control point. Now let's go, rather than placing a point singular, I'm going to place points plural. This will allow me to select those 2 points, 16 and 16 and a half. Okay, there are my points. Now I've modified the point itself, because the point is a 1-inch cube, 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch cube. That's how big it is. I've modified it so that I can see it in my floor plans. These blue control points, that's what they are, blue control points here, they allow me to kind of establish where Chris is going to go work and base the rest of the points out. Okay, so now that you've seen the control points in blue, the next thing that you're going to see is how do we automate the point creation in red. What you're seeing there, we've already laid out the blue control points. We're about to automate those red points. Now, rather than picking points manually, I'm going to show you a tool that automates that process. Now, this is standard functionality of Autodesk Point Layout. This is the wall family points, okay? So what we do is we tell it what point type, so this is a wall, what the prefix is, a WL, and I'm going to start again with point number 10,000. So you might be thinking, Jay, you just used point number 10,000. Yeah, but it has a prefix. The other one had CTRL 10,000. These are wall points, WL 10,000. Okay, so next, what do we want to do? So we want to, the point roll, we want to stake these out. We have all these options at our disposal. I'm just going to choose stake out. Next, what we want to do is we want to add a custom description to this. And I'm just going to put wall points as the description. This is a code that will be transferred over to what he's going to see in the field. Chris is going to see wall points as the code. Okay, next, we're going to select all of them as opposed to select some. Think of select some as being able to go select a window. I wish it said, select within a window, but it says select some. I'm going to select all. Next, if I had a curved wall, let's say it was a gentle curved wall, maybe I want a point at every 12 inches along that curvature of the center line, right? So this is where we can say, I just want the ends, or I want to lay points along that curvature. If I hit none, it's just going to do, by default, it's going to do the start and the ends only, okay? Now, what do I want to mark? Do I want to mark the top? Do I want to mark the bottom? Or do I want to mark both? Really, I just want the bottom. I don't really care about the top. And then what part of the structure do I want to mark? For this, I want the track center. Remember, with metal stud framework, the track is where we're going to lay the bottom piece where the studs will connect into. Okay, so I want to do the track center. And just like that, it's going to take about 20 seconds because this is a rather large file. There are a lot of walls within here. It's going to go and analyze all of the wall, all of their endpoints, and place a point at each individual endpoint. Doesn't normally take too long, and as you can see here, it took about 15-20 seconds to lay out all of these points. If I zoom out, I can see all of the points that have been laid out already for me. Now I'm zooming back into where our control points are. Although the tool is very smart and it can take care of all of that, sometimes you get what's known as a point cluster. Chris, was that right? Was it a point cluster that we see?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this point cluster, this isn't exactly what we need. So we're going to clean this up. And it's literally as simple as selecting and deleting the unnecessary points. Literally select that point and delete it. Select the next point and delete it. Now this point right here, right? I want that point to be aligned. So I'm just going to use my standard Revit functions that you guys are already familiar with. I'm going to align it not to the outside face of the gypsum. I'm going to align it to the outside face of the structure where the gypsum mounts to, right? So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to grab that point. So there we've aligned these points, and across the hall we can see additional points over here. And we're going to see how Chris goes about laying this stuff out. So guys, it literally is that simple to automate the wall point layout. All right, let's transition back really quick to our PowerPoint. The automating the point creation, which you just saw. Now let's take a look at exporting these points out to the field. It's a very simple process. And as I mentioned before, I'm going really fast here, guys, but when you work with Autodesk Point Layout, you start from the left in the ribbon and you move yourself over to the right. Now you saw wall points. We can also do face points, model lines. We can do parts. We can do conduits. We can do pipes. We can do fabrication pipes, parts, hangers. We can do all of that stuff. And then eventually we can export. We want to move to the right. We want to export this information out so that Chris can see it. How do we do this? So simple, export the points. We want to start in the upper left-hand corner in this point export order box. Typically, the point export that we want is northing and easting, and that's really user-friendly for people who are in the surveying and layout industry, right? So we can use the northing and easting or the easting and northing. So this is YXZ. Something that we on the Revit side are more familiar with is the XYZ. So we're going to use northing and easting. We're going to use decimal feet as the default units. We will in fact export a DWG out of Revit. This is for the Robotic Total Station. And we're going to check for duplicate numbers, okay? So the point selection, we're going to select all of the points that we just created. The coordinate system, we're just going to use the project, the relative project internal. It's just important that you make sure that you jive with every time you export and every time you import, that they're the same, okay? And then what is the file export name? So I'm going to call this Autobahn SeaRUG. Oh, there we go. There we go. Got it. Okay, Autobahn SeaRUG. I'm going to place it in my folder, in my dataset folder, and we're also simultaneously, we're making a DWG file and we're making a CSV file, okay? We're doing both in the same thing here. So here's the DWG and here's the CSV, okay? The CSV is just gonna be a literal data dump of the point number, the description, the X, Y, Z information, okay? Let's go ahead and export this out. It analyzed for duplicate point numbers. There weren't any, so I get that confirmation. I'll hit OK. It made 557 points just off of the automation points and those two control points that I laid out. Let's hit OK here. Next, it's asking me which view for the floor plan, which view do you want to use? And I have two that are ready to roll. And I've got one called points working, which is the view that I'm looking at. And then I have one that's called points exports. It just doesn't display the ring and the cube. So I'm going to use the point exports, and then I want a DWG resulting file here. What coordinate system for the DWG? I'm just going to use the project coordinates. And then this is what version of AutoCAD you want to use. You can use version 12, you can use 10, 13, and if you use default, it's just going to use the default version of what I'm currently using. I happen to be using Revit 2023 right now. Okay, so just like that, we have now exported those files. They have been created. And now that you've seen how we export those points, what's our next step here? Our next step then is to ensure that we get this out to the rest of our system, and we're using Magnet Enterprise. And here to tell you more about Magnet Enterprise is Mr. Chris Wilson.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, Magnet Enterprise is an online web-based application for transferring files from the field to the office. It integrates seamlessly into Magnet Field software that is and the data collectors. And it's a great way to get a visual map of your projects that are geo-referenced. You can transfer real-time data. You can also see equipment that is being used in the field live while it's being used in the field. And as of right now, there's currently no file upload limit on it. There's lots of other features and cool things about this web-based application, but those are kind of some of the high points.
Thank you, Chris. Excellent. Excellent. Good. So I have to put my file somewhere where Chris can reach it, seeing as how he's in Kent. And because this is a live demonstration, let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to pop open my Magnet Enterprise. It's simple. I'm using Google Chrome. I've went to the website and I've signed in. From here, I can see all of my different projects that I'm related to, that I have access to. And the project I'm working on right now with Chris is this Autobahn project. I want to place it in the inbox folder here that you can see. I don't have any files in there at the moment, but I'm about to upload those particular files from my desktop here. And I called it the Autobahn SeaRUG CSV and Autobahn SeaRUG DWG. Let's go ahead and open those up and upload those files. So in a moment, what you're going to see is Chris will take over and he's going to demonstrate for about, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And we're going to see that back and forth, how he's going to lay out these points. And then ultimately, he's going to allow me to upload those points that he's already laid out back into Revit. So we're going to see the difference there. Okay, while this is uploading, guys, let me do a quick check on the chat and see if there's any questions that have come up. Stand by. Okay, all right, we're good. In just a moment, we're going to make Chris a presenter. He will be able to share his screen, and then we'll get moving on that. Have these files finished uploading at this point? It looks like it's still working. Let's give it another minute, Chris.
Jay, we did have a question come through.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. Okay, so the question came in. Evan, thank you so much. Hey, Evan, how you doing, buddy? Haven't seen you in a while. Can a single APL license be easily shared with multiple users? Yeah, so APL, Autodesk Point Layout, let me get clarification on this, but I am under the impression for some reason that it is a user license rather than a floating license. So, and that means, let me see if I can clarify this for you. In Revit, I have to be signed in as my user account, and when I hit checkout license, it's going to check to see if my account has an APL license. I will double check that for you, and we'll get a clear answer on that. Thank you, Evan. Okay, all right. Let me switch back to Enterprise. We have those files uploaded. Excellent. Okay. So that's Magnet Enterprise, guys. That's what we do with Magnet Enterprise. The next thing that you're about to see, and we're going to make Mr. Chris Wilson here, we're going to make him presenter. And the next thing you're going to see here is laying out those points in the field. Stand by while we make Chris presenter. Okay, let's find Chris. There it is, Chris panelist. Okay, let's make him a presenter. Okay, Chris, can you confirm that we can see your screen here in a moment?
Yeah, looks good. See here. Should be able to. So hopefully you should see Magnet Field show up. Yeah, looks
yes,
good.
we do. Take it away, Chris.
Okay, great. Great. So, excuse me one second. There we go. And navigate with these screens. So as you can see, this is Magnet Field software. It's very, very basic. Basic in the sense that it's really intuitive, very easy to use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to Magnet Enterprise in Magnet Field software. And I'm going to pull out those files that Jay uploaded. So as you can see here, I've got two files. This is a CSV file with the points. And it's going to ask me, do I want to go ahead and put that right in my job? I'm going to say yes, I do. And I'm giving it a data type. Of course, we want to choose points. And then, sorry, I got a lot of windows. Here we go. And then the format, Topcon text custom, text file or CSV. This gives you more options of what kind of file you want to bring in and different changes you might want to make so that it reads properly, but we've tested this before, so we know all our settings are good. So it gives you a confirmation 558 points have been imported. Great. I'm going to go back into Enterprise one more time to get that DWG drawing. There it is. And same thing. I'm going to go ahead and download that, bring it right in my job. Multiple. That all looks good. Let's go. And it's loaded. And one nice thing, I'll stop on this page just to make a quick point, is something that they added into Magnet Field that works even better with AutoCAD. Is some of you might know, there's sometimes a lot of layers with AutoCAD drawings. And just in Magnet Field, you have the option to go ahead and select used. So on this particular one, there's at least a couple layers that it was able to turn off because there's just nothing on there. And it's just going to fill your data collector up with more layers that you don't necessarily need. So really nice extra feature they added into Magnet Field that works even better with utilizing AutoCAD drawings. All right, so it looks like I have everything in there. And so at this point, I'm already connected to my total station, my robotic total station across the room there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a setup routine using those control points that Jay transferred into Magnet Enterprise. So here I'm basically just giving it the parameters for doing the setup. I'm going to tell it to use the first point elevation. I'm using a prism as my measurement file. Now I'm going to tell it which point I want to be able to use for control. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. As you can see, this is the same file, just a little bit different looking when you're in this particular software. Okay, so I've selected my first control point. I'm set up over it already. I have my prism pole here is nice and level. I have the offset for my prism pole so that it knows that I'm 5.5 feet from the center of the prism to the tip of the rod and where it's at on the ground. So now I'm going to go ahead and tell the instrument to start tracking this prism. After a brief search. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and take this measurement. Great, now I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. You'll notice the robot is following me while I'm doing this. Got onto my second control point. I'm going to go ahead and re-level. Select which control point this is. I'll take another measurement. Okay, and from here it's going to tell me basically how well the measurements that the instrument was taking fit to the design information I have in the model. So these points and the angles and distances that robot was measuring match up to what's in the model by up to 100. So that's really spot on. That's perfectly good for doing most layout. I'm going to go ahead and click accept. I'm going to bring me back to the home page. I'm going to click on the plan view. And here I can jump right into doing layouts. So some of these layout points that Jay uploaded into Magnet Enterprise. So I'm just going to use this quick select tool here to select some of these wall points. And then I'm going to lay out with a points list. Just push and hold on the screen, lay out points list. And I have this really cool option here to select the nearest point. What that is going to do is it's not going to care what the actual number of the point is or what the name of the point is when it's progressing me along while I'm doing layout from point to point. It's just going to tell me this one is closest to you in your points list. Let's lay that one out next. I'm going to go ahead and click on layout. And you'll see on the screen in the top right, there's the 4.27 and the down arrow and then a 2.18 to the left. All these guidance tools, basically, and the measurements that they're giving you at this point in time are all in reference to the total station. There's different ways you can set that up, but that is the primary way of navigating that most people use when they're doing layout. So now you'll be able to see me move in real time. You'll see on the map there, I'm just kind of going to circle this around. You can see that the green line that's in magnet field right now actually represents the where the robot is currently aiming, and you can see the robot is represented at point number 200 in the middle of the screen there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my first point. So I want to go about roughly 4 feet back and 2.3 feet left. So.
And Chris, we're hearing some buzzing and some clicking. Can you help us understand what we're hearing?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, for me in a sales position, we like to call that the sound of making money. That's the ultrasonic drive motors of the Robotic Total Station. It makes some very unique sounds, and you grow to love it. It's pretty nice, but it lets you know it's working. You know, and typically on a job site, you have so many other noises that it's not something you even really notice. But that's what that is. It's actually ultrasonic drive motors of the Robotic Total Station. So in and right. So as I got closer, you might notice on the screen there, it changed my viewpoint, and it brought me in kind of a little bit closer to where the point is, and kind of you can see where I'm at in reference to that point. And it turned green because of the parameters that I currently set. Just kind of helps speed you up. There's a few different things you can do here to do that. So, all right, so it looks like I have to go in and right just a little bit. I'm going to get it just close for the presentation. Perfect. We're in 200ths away from the point. For most things, that's going to be pretty dang good for what we're doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this measurement. And you can see on this screen, it gives you all the parameters of this point that you have currently laid out. It shows you how far off that layout point was. And at the top, I have set an intolerance specification, basically. It's just a quick way that you yourself or a manager can look at what layout was done and know right away, is it in your tolerance that you currently set, or is it outside that tolerance? A couple of other options I'll just kind of go over quickly here. You can attach photos or all kinds of notes to any of the layout points that you do. You can, of course, code it if you'd like, and you can apply it to different layers if you wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this because I like everything I see. I'm going to hit green check, and it's going to advance me to the next closest point. I need to go left about 5 feet and up about 1.5 feet. And right there. And so I get close to the point, and then I re-level. About like that. And it looks like I have to go right about 900ths, something like this. So one other thing I'll point out here is, on my screen, you might notice an STK CNT. It's on the left-hand side. It says 1 of 5. That's a nice feature that we have in magnet field layout that basically when you're staking via points list, like what I've done here, it gives you your total points that you need to stake out, so 5. And at this point, we're on number 1. This one I'm about to lay out would actually be number 2. It's a great way to know how much work you have to do and how much you've done so far. So if your boss calls you and says, hey, you know, how much longer do you have? You might have at least a little bit better of a gauge on that with that kind of a data. So this also looks great. I'm going to go ahead and green check. Going to go to the next point. And here we go. We'll do this last one here. Here. Right, 2, 3. All right. And this one, I'm going to actually go out of tolerance just on purpose, just to kind of show you. So you can see I'm about 2/10, 3/10, something like that off of the point. And I'm just basically, I haven't leveled the pole. So I'm going to go ahead and take this measurement. And it gives you a warning because of the parameters I put into the software. It tells you, oh, warning. Basically, you haven't laid this point out very well according to your parameters. Do you want to continue storing the point? I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And you can see at the top, intolerance, no. Just to make it really, really clear whether something was done to your specifications or not. Just another way to speed you up and also hopefully alleviate any errors. So green check. All right, awesome. And so you can see on the left-hand side, my stake count also went up to 3 out of 5. From here, I'm going to go ahead and push these points that I laid out back into the enterprise so that Jay in the office can take a look at what I've done. I'm going to go back to the home screen. I'm going to go into jobs in the enterprise cloud. And from here, I'm already don't have to do anything else from here other than hit this drop-down menu, upload current job, upload. And looks like it's just about done. And one great thing is that I just uploaded the complete job. I didn't sparse out any sort of information that I did or didn't want to share with enterprise and get stored in the cloud. I did the whole thing. So that could be photos, that can be reports, that can be all kinds of different data that you can collect and store in Magnet Field. And you can upload it with just one button, just that easy. So I think, Jay, it should be ready for you in enterprise whenever you're ready. Back to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Chris, I do have one question for you. I get this asked of me a lot, but not being in the layout field myself, maybe you have a better answer. I get asked, what should we expect for layout? Are we talking about, 1 minute per point? Are we talking about 5 minutes per? What do we think that's going to take?
Yeah, that's really, it's going to vary a lot from job to job. And the way that varies is, how accurate do you need that point? Can you be within 1/10 of the point and that's acceptable for what you're doing? If that's the case, it's going to be a lot quicker for someone to get within 1/10 than it is if you need to be completely dead nuts on or to the 100th of that point. That's going to matter quite a lot. The other thing that's really going to affect that is what are you putting down to mark that point? Are you doing a scribed X where you're actually getting down on your knees and scribing onto a piece of concrete where this point is located? Are you marking out with just paint? Are you using a Sharpie? Are you using hub and tack? All these things can affect how fast you can go through points, but doing a couple hundred points in a day is not uncommon at all. And definitely something that most people should strive for is how many points can you do? It's really cool when guys in the field are competitive over those kinds of things. And we definitely like to support that here.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, great. Thank you so much for helping us understand that. Okay, I'm going to take over the screen again. Just a quick confirmation. Now that we've seen how to lay out those points in the field, what you're going to see next is importing those fields, importing the field points back into Revit. So what you're seeing there is those green points. That's what Chris, for example, just laid out. How do we do that? Okay, let's switch back over to Revit and let's take a look at how we import those field points that Chris just took care of. In order to do that, I have to go fetch the file. Okay, so here we are back in Enterprise, and allow me to do one quick thing. I'm just going to refresh my view here and get back into the project. So I'm in Enterprise, and the web URL is enterprise.magnetsystems.com. And here we can see the projects. I'll go to Autobahn in the inbox, and this is the file, the SeaRUG.mjf zip file. That's the file that he just finished creating for us. So on the ellipses, I can convert this to a CSV file, which that file type is what we are going to use to help us with that. Sorry, guys, I'm not sure what happened there. Allow me to refresh one more time. Again, the file types that we want to import back into APL is a CSV file, and that's where we take this converted file and use that as well. I've got a backup file just in case this won't work, but let's go ahead and refresh. Oh, you know what? It's still, oh yeah, data import completed. Okay, stand by. We'll try this one more time and see if we can get that to import.
It's always during the presentation that you have something like this, isn't it, Jay?
It is. Okay, all right. I'm just going to use my alternative file. For some reason, it wasn't, maybe it's not done processing like I thought. Okay, the process of importing that file. Once we have that CSV downloaded and installed on our PC, we can simply import that. I'll go ahead and select the file to import. And the last one that we did was this test3, okay? And it's a CSV file. It's not very different. And you're gonna see the list of all those 580 points that we saw earlier. That's this long list here. The exception here is I don't wanna import all of the points. You can see that they're checked. By default, they're always all checked. I'm just gonna go to none. And then at the bottom of the list, you're gonna see, let's see, do I have those here? Maybe it wasn't this file. Give me 1 second, guys. Let's try, that's the one. Sorry, guys, here we go. At the bottom of the list, you're gonna see how Chris's system, it makes new points, but it uses the old point number, but it adds an underscore STK. Now that's something that his Robotic Total Station controller, when he's collecting the point, we didn't make a big deal of discussing that, but it's adding an underscore STK extension. It's appending underscore STK to the point number that he was laying out, okay? So these are wall points. These are going to be staked. Again, they're northing and easting, they're decimal feet. And let's make sure that we're on the same coordinate system, which happens to be project internal. And when we add these points, we give it a roll, and it's gonna show where those points are specifically related to the points that he created, right? So here we've got the points that were made. Oh, and incidentally, check this out. We've got it showing up in green here. I didn't get into this, but guys, this is controlled by a standard Revit filter. If you guys want to see how I did that, please chime in the Q&A and let me know. If not, if you guys already understand Revit filters, we're just going to leave it at that. Here we can see that this particular point and that point, I'm showing them both. You can see where the green one was laid out as opposed to where we had thought it was going to be. So this is where Chris, maybe for some reason he couldn't put it right where he needed it. Maybe there was an obstruction of some sort. Maybe there was a hole there. I don't know what the reason would be, but we've got some kind of deviation here. And this is really the power of being able to send those points out to the field and have Chris remember the intolerance, and it would say yes or no. This is where that kind of thing comes in really handy. And we can check for those things directly within the Revit environment. So we can see where he's laid out the points, and we can bring those points back into our project. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here's what we saw today. This kind of wraps up the technical part of what we wanted to present. If you guys wanted to see that Revit stuff, please fire the Revit filter stuff rather, please fire that in the Q&A. And we're gonna end here in about 3 minutes, but if you want, we're gonna continue and we're gonna show you not just the Autobahn data set, the Revit file that we have, but we're gonna show you the real world photographs of that particular building and how accurate they got to the design. So stick around if you guys wanna see some of that. It's pretty nice eye candy for those of you who wanna see that. Okay, so in recap, what did we show you guys today in the 45 minutes that we've been presenting here? And that's setting up the control points. We could also do state plane coordinates if that's something that you guys are interested in. We can do another web demo on that. Also, we showed you how to automate the point creation using the walls. We automated that and we didn't have to go point by point by point. Third, we saw how do we export those points out to the field and get that prepared for Chris or someone like Chris who's out doing the layout. We showed you also, additionally, we showed you Magnet Enterprise, which is the Topcon cloud that works directly with the Robotic Total Station controller. And then number 5, we saw laying out those points in the field, how the Robotic Total Station tracks the prism, and some of the art that Chris has to do with leveling and getting over there and speeding up his process. 200 or more points a day, that's a pretty breakneck pace, especially when you consider a 8-hour workday is 480 minutes, right? Do the math on that, 60 minutes times 8 hours. And then finally, you saw importing those fields back into Revit, so seeing what we can do with it. That brings a close to our presentation. we're going to kick this back over to David. So on behalf of Topcon, Chris Wilson, myself, Jay Ayala, it is our pleasure and our privilege to present this information to you here at SeaRUG. If you want to see more of this at your location, maybe we come to you and kind of walk you guys through this at your company. Chris and I would be happy to make that trip in and around the Seattle area, guys. Just let us know if that's something you're interested in. Okay, thank you so much for your time and attention. I'm gonna go check the Q&A, and after David wraps up and says goodbye here, stick around. I'm gonna show you some of the real world Autobahn building. David, let's pass this over to you, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Jay. I don't think I have much to add. This has always been, obviously, I'm on the construction side, so getting points in and out, having done plenty of CSV exports and CAD backgrounds, and I've always been lucky that somebody on the layout teams had to deal with it on the field side. But being able to bring points back into Revit and place points is just such a fantastic thing. I'm glad to see how it's evolving on the stuff that's new for me that I've seen today. It's how much better the tablet in the field is working. I remember kind of on some of the first gen stuff, just the absolute pain to deal with some of the interface issues in there, and I've gone through a couple of them. But like I said, I didn't get into it too much. It's just kind of always fun to see what's available. So I think in that spirit, I just wanted to again say a big thank you to Topcon Solutions Store and Jay, to you for always picking up the mantle of presenting and always bringing great content and being well prepared and rehearsed. But I think I'm just going to say goodbye and thank you and pass it back to you, and you can show us the cool stuff. That's going to be much more interesting than anything I have to say. So again, thank you to everybody for 2022 SeaRUG. We'll see you next year, and that's all from me.
Excellent. Okay, and for those of you sticking around, I did want to show just a little bit more. Chris, thank you so much for helping us out with that part of it. Check this out, Chris, if you haven't seen it already. So this is a Revit file, Chris, that we got from one of our clients during my Autodesk days when I was working there. They were kind enough to provide us the Revit files for the architecture, the structure, and the MEP. And we used this data set back in 2012 to help people understand what was new in Revit. However, that building was actually constructed the very following year, called the Garage Insurance Autobahn Center, just outside of Columbus, Ohio. These are real world photographs of that building. Guys, there is so much in here. For example, check this out. We've got this particular view of this particular view of this room. That room is this room over here. Let me rotate around and show you where that's at. That's this room right here. And to give you a real world sense of where that's at, check this out, Chris. I can zoom out and place a camera view. Now you're not going to get the pretty landscape in the back, cityscape in the background, but what you will get is the image here. Let me change that to consistent colors, and I can broaden that wider here and make it taller, right? Check this out. That's that same view from within that building. And if I was clever enough, I could probably rotate and elevate and look just in a slightly different way to get that same image out of there. It's a beautiful building. We see lots of receptions get booked there for weddings and stuff like that. And I wanted to make sure that the customers that we demonstrate the real world, going from a Revit model to points and laying that stuff out. This is the result. This is the result of all that, Chris. We were able to get the walls, the tracks laid out right where they're supposed to be. And with enough time, of course, the specialty contractors will come in and lay out the walls, put in the windows, and do all the work that they need to. But it all starts with Revit, the design software, and that's where SeaRUG comes in, right? That's where our main clients are, that we wind up catering to, helping them understand this is the concept of what we're going to design, and then ultimately the real world contractors, this is what they build, the GCs, their specialty subpartners, and all of that, right? So there's a middle place in between, and that's where APL and Topcon's robotic total stations can really come into play. And I just love the fact that we're able to straddle the fence on both of those sides, which is being able to support our clients with the software, but then also being able to support them with the hardware. So again, if you guys want to see more of this at your location, let us know. It would be our pleasure, our privilege to come and do this demonstration for you and your team specifically. With that, guys, I'm going to stop the presentation here, and thank you so much for your time and attention. Chris, we appreciate your help as well, and we'll be seeing everybody here soon. Happy holidays, happy new year, in case we won't be seeing each other, but yeah, be safe and be healthy, everyone.